Okay,
Okay.
we're ready, Hunter.
Okay. My name is Hunter Morrison, planning consultant to the city of Youngstown and uh, convener of the Design Review Committee meeting. This is the Design Review Committee meeting of Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. It is a virtual Zoom meeting, which is live on YouTube and also will be archived. Um, we have a quorum consisting of Nick Cretion, Jay Crofton, Bill Davignon, Nikki Posterly, and Chuck Shashow. Other members may join us. And Rick, we just got a new call in from 503-4374. Um, Perhaps we can get that person identify themselves.
Who's 4374, please?
This is Laura Fulmer.
Okay.
Okay. Laura Fulmer from the City of Youngstown. Very good. Um, in addition, we're joined by representative of WFMJ and Dave Skolnick, um, and our law director, Jeff Limbian. Okay, the first item on the agenda under new business is case DRC 2013, Kate Spires from BSHM Architects to present. This is a proposal to construct the handshake of the century, which will include a 6x9 by 8-foot bronze statue, a concrete statue plinth, tiered seating, paved walkways, plantings, bronze history and donor plaque, and statue lettering to be located at the Youngstown Foundation Amphitheater at 229 East Front Street in Youngstown. Kate, would you care to present this project?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you. Thanks for having me this morning. If there's, do you have information loaded, like images loaded?
Exactly.
That you start to talk to, or I also am prepared to share my screen if that's easier.
Well, why don't we like to have the proponents share their screen if they have material, because it's usually more complete.
Yeah, and then I can navigate it.
We do have copies, but you can navigate it and make your presentation more elegantly.
Okay, let me do that. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Is that working for everybody? We're seeing like a set of drawings.
Is that as large as it can get? Yeah, very good. Okay.
Yep, so enlarge it. So we can kind of enlarge into this photo here. So the project I want to present today is the Handshake of the Century statue, which is a statue, as described already, a bronze statue that's about 6x9 by 8, slightly larger than life bronze statue, done by the artist Mark Mellon out of Connecticut, who's famous in his own right for many athletic statues. So he's commissioned to do the MVPs of the NBA as well as other kind of commemorative athletics for professional sports organizations, as well as political leaders and entertainers. So he has quite like a breadth of a body of work. And this kind of realistic bronze statue, very realistic. So he's been commissioned to do this statue, which commemorates a moment in baseball history that starts to kind of erase the lines of, or the boundaries, and enhance sense of like harmony and racial equality. So the story behind the statue is that, this is 1946, and it is Jackie Robinson's inaugural year in what is now professional baseball. He's playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers, with his teammate George Shuba, who's a Youngstown native. So Jackie Robinson is at bat. His first bat hits a 3-run homer, crosses the plate, and the tradition of baseball was for the runners who just scored before him to extend their hand in congratulations. These runners snubbed him instead, but George Shuba, who is at bat, he walks up to the plate and congratulates him on his home run, and essentially memorializing this moment of racial kind of or like racial boundary erasure here in the statue. And so I think, we'll talk about the location of this statue and also the surrounding environment that you see on the screen here, like a place to see the statue and see this kind of moment new here in Youngstown. So switch to the plan. So this is a plan trying to locate where the statue is. You can see Market Street is here, which turns into the bridge overhead. Of course, the new amphitheater sits over here on the west side of Youngstown Amphitheater Park, Youngstown Foundation Park. And the statue then, let's zoom in here. So crossing underneath the bridge, located along the main promenade that connects it to the parking at Covelli. This dark boundary here represents kind of the area location. So the statue would be located right about here at the corner, right at the entry to this promenade off the Covelli parking. So what you'll see here is this rectangle. In the center is essentially the plinth that we saw in the rendering. So the statue sits on this plinth. And what we've done here is to kind of recreate the scene of the handshake. So, the job of making an environment was, trying to imagine how people could view this and experience this place in Youngstown. So what we've done is to kind of recreate a bit of a baseball field. So the moment of the handshake happens right at home plate. So Jackie will have his foot on home plate as he comes in, standing on the plinth, George Shuba shaking his hand. So what we've done is orient the walkways. So this walkway that extends from the promenade is, essentially third base.
Okay.
So when a visitor comes off the promenade, you essentially, are walking the line that Jackie Robinson walked or ran to home plate. So you'll kind of approach George Shuba in his kind of outreached hand in this kind of view. The other approach is the commemorative or like the photograph kind of framing. So this is like the view of the photographer taking the picture, and you'll see here, is really starting to frame the handshake itself, this kind of view line here. But there are other moments to experience, this statue, and there's room for, individual moments and gathering moments. So, the statue itself needed a bit of a backdrop. So, and it also needs a gathering space. So what we did here was we have plinth benches that get embedded into the hillside and start to make a backdrop, but also a larger gathering space. So enough seating for a small, or really even a large classroom or two classrooms. You can imagine elementary schools coming and taking a trip and sitting and, hearing the story of this moment in history. There are also smaller seating out here for, 2 or 3 people to sit at a time, or to sit by yourself, kind of, have a quiet, solemn moment, looking at this statue. And of course, there's large standing space. So you can imagine people, this is, could be very focused on the story, but could also just be a community place for people to gather. You imagine, people are coming and going from amphitheater events, they're waiting for their car to be picked up, and there's a place to sit, a place to meet, a place to gather, a place to talk, a place to sit quietly with your thoughts. So many scales of kind of experience in this area here. And then, another kind of poured concrete plinth here that will contain signage, and that signage will be lit. So maybe I'll go into like the materiality of this. Most of this, trying to keep costs low, but also making a nice permanent space. A lot of this is finished cast in place concrete. So all of this paving here is concrete slab with some details that kind of start to emulate baseball diamonds and baseball fields, even marking here and in joinery, the third baseline and pouring the third base itself just to kind of set that moment in place.
Kate,
And-
Kate, what is that line going to be made of? Is that a cut in
Right.
the concrete or
Concrete finished differently. So polished here, so it stands out differently than the adjacent kind of finishes of concrete. So it's subtle, but it's there. It can be part of the story, but not stand out as like glaring or a hazard. You don't want it granite for like slipping.
Yeah,
You want to protect.
or something
protect
will pop out with freeze thaw and all that stuff.
Yeah. So that's all. That kind of paving is so concrete finished differently. Getting a little interesting with the joinery, and then this kind of white space in between the concrete and the plinth itself is red infield clay. So like you would see at a field, so that kind of like rich red, like Cherokee red clay there. And that of course will be, drained and have sublayers to it so it doesn't pond. But that also helps, kind of minimize in this park, it minimizes all the impervious paving, right? So that's a bit of pervious paving there, helping with drainage. So it's not just a sea of concrete. The plinths themselves are like extended foundations, finished nicely with some details. We can show those too. And then lots of planting. So there's planting beds behind this plinth to help with water, to help with, erosion on the hillside, and of course to beautify and kind of set the background. So there's planting area there, and also wrapping around the signage plinth here. And then some trees. So this is an existing tree. These are existing trees here along the plinth, and everything else kind of surrounding the statue, starting to kind of frame this place. We can get into that too. So dimension plans, grading plans. So regrading this hillside a little bit as the foundations and plinth seating goes in the back there, but really working with the existing topography that's there now currently. And of course the planting. So the planting is chosen, with consideration about really about beauty and about low maintenance. So not to burden like the existing facility with keeping up something, and also making sure that, like if it's, maintained 6 times a year, great. If it's maintained 1 time or 2 times in the beginning and the end of, growth seasons, it will also thrive too. So drought tolerant plants, things that will last for quite a long time. So back in the planting areas, we have some perennials embedded with a more like ground cover, like plant that's really good at taking root, especially on hillsides. And that kind of thing is being emulated here too, around the signage. And then a purple plum leaf, serviceberry trees, and staghorn sumac trees. So those are the 3 plant varietals that are around, and then some purple sandberry shrub hedges. So sometimes that purple sandberry is, thought about as a hedge, and other times it is, allowed to grow a bit more freely and openly. So these kind of plants are deep purple color. They're easily maintainable. You can leave them alone and they'll grow, 8 feet in diameter. You can trim them every year and they stay nice kind of tidy. But they have this nice, deep, vibrant color, which I think will be a nice contrast against the, the grass of the landscape. But, there'll be kind of a complementary, the purple leaf trees about the same kind of tone as that, but that elevation will be much higher. And then the sumac tree has like a really kind of like light filtering texture to it. And it has like these red cones that grow from them and turns vibrant colors in the fall. And same with the serviceberry tree, like a light filtering tree to provide shade in this area, but then also turns a vibrant orange. So you can imagine in the season, so all these are kind of deciduous trees and really kind of, playing on the cycle of these trees and kind of ever changing, so that it's a place that you can come back and see, the area different every time. And so that's landscape. And then we have these purple hedges kind of extending along this third baseline to give that a bit more definition and verticality. So it's not just flat work. So that becomes a bit more obvious, but doesn't kind of infringe on the existing landscape that's happening along the promenade that is complementary to that. And here we get into the sections of what the plinth looks like. So here is that back seating that gets embedded into the hillside with lighting embedded into the plinths below. The idea here is that the lighting provides security and kind of ambient light in this kind of back seating area, so that it's not if it's dark, it's a bit of a security hazard. So ambient light, but not taking away from lighting of the statue itself, that we want that to be predominant, and the other light to just be a bit more ambient. Here you can see those concrete plinths, and there's this detail of an edge band making a bit of like a cap to the seating. So little details that go a long way there. And then in the plinth, so this is right up here is kind of an elevation of the plinth. So formed with board form concrete, so it has a bit of like this rough texture to it. But if you cut a section through here, the bit that, like the horizontal bit that the statue would sit on here will be ground and polished. So when it rains, there's reflection. When the sun is shining, there's lots of reflection of the statue above it. And in contrast, it's kind of like rough, gritty board form concrete on the outside. Be bronze letters standing off to title the statue Handshake of the Century. And then there'll be lighting around the edge of this plinth uplighting to light the statue. And then the sign over there is constructed in much the same manner with a slanted face for a bronze plaque commemorating, the story or the history of the statue, another bronze plaque for donors, and probably some quotes. I'm kind of trying to narrow those down, both from George Shuba and Jackie Robinson on there too. And I want to say something else about the statue or about the lighting. And I must have skipped over it. Sorry about this clicking. Let's apologize. It looks like I'm. All right, so what I want to say is that there are two other lights on either side. They're large pole lights, black poles, about 12 feet tall on either side of this signage plinth. And they have, kind of lights that attach to it that can be turned to focus on the signage itself so people can read the story at night, but also into the space, and some more ambient lighting, like top lighting for the statue from back here. But those will also host security cameras, like dome cameras on the top, to provide surveillance for this area as well, which I think is, really important here. So I think I have covered most of the main points here. So there are questions.
Before we get in,
Want
I've
me
got
to
a
go into
couple,
detail about something else? I'm happy to.
yeah, there are a couple of questions I think we should hear about. The who's responsible for the maintenance of this?
Yeah, this will get wrapped into the park maintenance. So like we're saying, trying to keep it low. And we've been in conversations with JAC, who currently holds that contract, and they are happy to be part of this.
Okay, and that includes maintaining the lights and the like.
Right.
And who gets the electrical bill? Is that tied to who's paying for the electrical, for the lighting?
Yeah, I believe it's all, that's a great question. And I know we're putting in a new box, and that part I didn't.
I think that probably needs to be clarified as to whose meter it runs off of.
Yeah, yeah,
And make sure that there's clear agreement and understanding.
right. That'll get written into the legal agreement for sure.
Now, do you have any concerns in terms of the bronze letters and bronze plaques about theft? It's a fairly remote location.
No, I think a lot because they're embedded into, like deeply embedded into concrete. And you'd have to bring out, I think, a machine, you'd have to bring out like a metal cutter. And I think we could,
Again, I think that's a detail you want to work on so that there's not a place for a crowbar to fit behind the letter to pop them.
right.
There are ways of doing that, obviously, but
Right.
just that those details are going to be key since it is a remote site and won't be visited sort of on a regular basis. Those are the only questions that I had. I think it's a very thoughtfully prepared proposal. Are there questions from the members of the committee?
I just got a comment, Hunter.
Councilman Oliver, is that Councilman Oliver?
Yes. I just want to commend the committee and everybody involved on this statute. I think it's exactly what this community needs, what our city needs, what the country needs, really. And I definitely like to see this move forward. And thank you to everybody involved.
I think the timing couldn't be better. But the other thing I want to comment on, Kate, is that the way in which you've arranged the seating allows people to look at the city, to look at the river site, to really stop for a minute and take a look at this wonderful valley, and the landform, but also the cityscape. And so I think that will have some beneficial consequences as people come to appreciate what we have on that site.
Great, we hope so.
Are there other questions or comments from members of the committee?
Comment here. First, I can't overstate how impressed I am as a member of the project committee. We are a part of it, with the design of the site, of how the project has really come together and what Katie has put together for the project. So thank you, Katie, for showing us the details today. But in terms of the contractual agreement, we are working with Nikki, and that will be with the law department before any final agreements of placing it on city property are made. So that will be going through the proper processes and channels before it is ever placed in terms of those concerns.
And we've reviewed it, Nick, from the perspective of the parks maintenance and all. It sounds like it's a fairly maintenance-free design. Yeah,
it will be, all those questions will be answered in that contractual agreement between us, the city, whoever is involved in that final agreement.
Okay. Are there any other questions and comments from members of the committee? Before I call for a vote, then we've been joined, Rick, by 7428894. Perhaps that person can identify themselves.
Jaleesa Thomas.
Yes. What is your name, please?
Jaleesa Thomas.
Oh, Jaleesa. I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Okay. If there are no other questions or comments from the members of the board, I'd entertain a motion.
Hunter.
Mr. Shashow.
Yes, sir. How are you? I would just like to say this is I love everything about this project. Obviously, we'll continue to work with the committee on providing any of the public works needs that they have. Also, on a side note, I would like to say that Katie just provided a textbook example of how to present a project to the committee. So very, very good job, Katie. And I'll move to.
Katie, I think with that comment, we'll archive your presentation because we are trying to sort of up everybody's game. But thank you for those comments, Chuck. And you're comfortable as service director with all the design detailing that's been done?
Yes, we've already been in contact with them about anything they need, and we're already working with them. So again, I move to approve.
It's been moved to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who's that?
Bill Davignon.
Bill, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the DRC 2013. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Kate.
Thank you
We
so
look
much.
forward. When's this likely to happen?
We could start digging foundations before the ground freezes this year or in the spring. But
Alright.
the statue will be going to the foundry to be cast this fall. So
Very good.
shortly it will be prepared. It'll be ready if we're all ready for it in April.
Wonderful. Just in time for opening day.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you again. The next case we have is DRC 20-10. It's old business. We heard it some time ago. This is YSU presentation proposal for a mural development on a 136-foot concrete wall along Andrews Avenue from Federal Street to Rayen Avenue. And we have two presenters on this, Karen Schubert and Dragna Surnak. So we heard this before, and there were a number of design details, and I see that the project is underway in a very nice way. So perhaps you can present the final details on this proposal.
I will, sure. Thank you all and good morning. Thanks for your time. So I'm gonna share screen to just provide updates on the project. Can you all see this? Well, okay. Okay, so just to briefly give overview, I know we met in July and we talked about this project, but just generally to give better sense of location, if some are still wondering, this is really close to Youngstown downtown. It's south of the campus. It's Industrial Parkway along Andrews Avenue. I think Federal Street here that meets Andrews is a point I think that most of us connect to the street. So this blue circle actually focuses here on where we are with this mural right now. So that's our primary area of work for this semester. We see this project to be phased. So we are working on phase 1, hoping to get to phase 2 in 2021. It's very long wall and it's very loud street. This is Industrial Parkway. So it has a lot of businesses along the street, a lot of traffic. There is a pedestrian walkway that's not really used that much. So now that we are on the site, we realize how busy with the traffic this street is. But I'll talk about it a little bit, how that impacted our design. We went through a lot of stages since July. I just want to provide brief update what we've done since July. We had really a lot of help from local businesses. This project has been really incredible in that sense of support and involvement from many different groups, some who volunteered, some that we had to pay for service, obviously, but CCA was there to help clean the street and get some dirt out and cut the grass for us. Davies was there to cut vines. This long wall really gets overgrown over summer, in fall and winter kind of gets cleaner. But it's mostly vines that really gave us a challenge before we started. So they trimmed all of that for us. We power washed the wall and then started priming. We also were lucky to get this really nice big platform donated by Solid Platforms on South Avenue that's really close to the site. So it just really started well. I think by now how we're planning, as you know, this is part of semester. It's YSU students working on this. We are following academic timelines. So we had to start on August 17th. And since then, students have been on a site every Monday and Wednesday during the class time. And we also had extended Mondays till 9 p.m. that students would come. And really by this point, everyone is working more than just class time. And we've had really good volunteers coming in and out from Honors College, YSU Scape, local communities. As we can't advertise big community days as we planned initially due to COVID, but we spread the word and smaller groups can still come, and it's very long walls so we can social distance and be safe. So we talked to a lot of different people before designing and to really take in account as much input for imagery that would come so that this becomes a really collaborative project. Youngstown Cityscape was huge in supporting us and still is in coming and talking to students and really bringing that perspective to, what really public art projects mean, because most of us in the art department are kind of solitary and like to work in our own studios and be a little, really centered on our own expressions. Here it was really important to share the vision. So you just see a few images here of priming and getting the wall done. That was actually the hardest stage, and really because there was no excitement yet. We just had to cover the wall and protect and fill in the cracks and fix the wall a little bit. Then we talked to also geography students. We're still collaborating with them where they provide some of those perspectives about the history of the place and really geographical characteristics of this particular location. And they're also providing information about other sites in Youngstown. As students they are starting to actually develop their individual proposals that are hypothetical, but we are hoping that some of them will be realized in the future. They are learning the process of really understanding how to make mural, but also how to think through these stages and be responsive to community and realities that we often overlook as artists. On the right side, you just see an example. It's just one section of the big sketch that we've done at the classroom at art department that just shows color coding. We had to go through a lot of stages of brainstorming and designing and picking up the colors. We work at night 6 to 9 because we project images and we depend on this nighttime. So it's a group of students that with 2 projectors in a limited time that just have to trace the sketch. Then during the day, we are mostly painting and filling in those shapes. So you can think of it as a large color by number painting. And these are just some shots that show in progress images. With the one last, where we are right now with the painting, I think we are about 65% done approximately. And we are really excited how it's going. Weather has been great. We haven't had really big distractions or some unexpected issues. Definitely we are using more paint and more primer than we thought we would. The concrete surface is very porous and absorbs more than we predicted, but it's still going well. We've had great support from local businesses supporting and donating or giving us discounts on materials. So we still have, what you see right here is about, I would say, 50% of the image. So there is still about 40 feet on the right side that we worked on last night. And I apologize, I don't have that image, but we traced continuation. So it continues on both sides for about 40 feet on the right and another 20 feet on the left. We are also working with Andrews Avenue Business Group, and they are providing now logos that we will include on one of the walls on the right side to promote businesses and thank them for support, because really it was generous, and we had really some good conversations with businesses along the Andrews Avenue that really impacted design. As this is very industrial parkway, I'm just gonna quickly show you these sketches to present a little bit the content of the mural. This goes from the left to right, obviously, and it's the image is it's a layer. We think of it as layering of history and kind of future vision of Youngstown. It's very colorful and bold. So we wanted to kind of go against that cliche vision of Youngstown as a rusty, historic, old city. But we also wanted to really present the pride that people have in the labor and industry that still is very strong here, especially along Andrews Avenue. So we included images of machinery and gears and pipes to kind of just hint at the labor of the place. There are images that are layered, and we wanted more abstracted vision that will give sort of impact and a feel of the place rather than illustrate or render details. So there is a highway turning into a film roll pointing to Warner Bros. Presence in a history of Youngstown. Details of a nightlife that we heard from other people and collected memories from. Definitely there are memories of the industry and the chimneys in the background. Fields, and people talked about, again, we've collected a lot of memories. I skipped that part, but the whole mural is based on the memories collected by people of Youngstown and who left the city, but remember Youngstown for personal reasons. So in the downtown, in the central image is the downtown depiction, a little bit with home savings. Sorry, I forget who owns the building now. But there are bridges, and as you move to the right, also we heard stories. There were some memories on department stores from 60s, and the long stool rows that people would come in and eat quickly at eateries and old department stores that were in downtown. There is also a little homage to Youngstown State on the right, and suburban houses, Mill Creek Mill. And there, I'm probably overlooking some details here, but again, it's a mural that layers abstractly imagery and stories and these memories that we collected and processed. So we kind of wanted to be inclusive, but really overall we had to think how this street, it will be engaged visually. And as it's driven by all the time, we were really considerate of that speed of looking and how it works from the distance. passing by, and we've already had really great responses to this for people who are driving by. A lot of honking and support from the car. So it's been really great and uplifting for all of us. We hope to continue this towards the left side next year if we can, and finish the whole wall to the end where it meets Federal Street and comes to downtown. There are some issues with the wall, and I just want to point to that. Hoping we can get support from the city eventually on this, because we just can't deal with some of these issues ourselves. Wall, in some parts, we actually saw that this wall has been fixed in the parts that were damaged like this here. And those are just some sections that we'll have to figure out, but we are working around those at this point. We know that vines will keep growing and these bushes and trees will do their job over, so that maintenance will be important to consider and somehow find solution where we hope to get just more attention to this area. There's really great section that allows a lot of space for benches and to be like little rest spot for people to come and sit and eat. Nothing fancy, nothing too expensive. I think we can actually find ways how to install these ourselves, and we definitely want to see lighting from the ground that brings more visual attention, but also security at night, and just bring more visual attention, make this area a little more pedestrian friendly, and to be just one alternate connection from downtown to Youngstown and also to Hubbard, I believe, like north of Youngstown. So that's what I have really so far. I would definitely like to answer questions if anyone has any.
Well, this is a wonderful presentation. Have the property on that's being retained back, is that part of the church land on there? Who owns the land behind the wall?
So we talked recently about Youngstown Cityscape. Actually, we've been working closely with them, and what we discovered that this actually whole wall is owned by multiple owners.
Oh.
That are little, we can find out information, but it's not easy to track some because they just haven't been around. I think that's all what I know. So there are little unknowns about, but the property behind, actually right above the mural, is not diocese property, because there is little, again, it's a private property above, because there is a business that doesn't operate anymore. And then there is street that divides that property from diocese. It's diocese very close, but it doesn't come to the fence.
Yeah, the only reason I was asking is one way to deal with the vines is to get them cut back at the upper level, but that would require working with whoever owns the property.
That's a great point. We'll still consider bringing that to them, and who knows, we might find support there. Sure.
Hunter, if I could interject.
Yes, sir.
I know there's always been great concern for the wall and the property above by the diocese, even though they don't own it. The businesses on Andrews Avenue every year basically ask me to get in touch with the Parks Department, and it used to be Bob Burke that would go and cut those vines on the wall every year if there was a forester available. So the Parks Department basically has been the one maintaining the cutting of the vines, of course, with the transition to Dawn Turnage and the Parks Department. I'm not sure if she did it this year or if you guys did it, but initially, I mean, for the past years, it's been the Parks Department that's been cutting those down. So just a little bit of information.
That's great. Thank you.
And great job on the project too. I love seeing this come to fruition. I hear people talking about it and asking me about it all the time. It's like another dream come true in the First Ward. I appreciate the investment and the time. Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
I drive from Wick Park to downtown along Andrews because it's a lot easier, far fewer
Awesome.
stoplights. So I've watched this project unfold. It's a really beautiful project.
So good to hear. Thank you.
I don't have any questions. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee?
It's exciting to see it take shape and the students out at the wall. Thank you for presenting today, Dragna.
Thank
Is this likely to be a YOU-scape type of engagement? I've also heard you talk about the honors students engagement over time.
You know, I just want to add how there is absurd benefits that unfolded over semester because of the pandemic that really scared us. First was restricting, but students especially feel lonely and not engaged in a lot of activities they usually would. So I think this was really great opportunity safe opportunity for everyone to come and participate and be kind of socially active still with other students. So I do want to add just we are hoping to be done by the end of October with painting, and first week of November we'll try to go for varnishing if weather allows us, but that might wait spring. So just so you know, I would encourage everyone to stop by. We also have website, and I probably should have included that in the PowerPoint presentation, but really gives a nice overview and will continue to exist as we hope more murals will come in future. So thanks for support. We really appreciate it.
Well, one thing you might want to consider, this would be a very wonderful story for the YSU Alumni Magazine about university city collaboration, about student engagement, about how do you get engaged students during a pandemic, and neighborhood beautification. There's a lot of different aspects. It's a very colorful project, and I would encourage you to talk with Ron Cole on the campus. And if they're not aware of the project, they should be, because it's a great civic endeavor. And I know the honors program has always been looking for projects that actually have an impact, and this looks like it has it has a very visible impact on beautification of the surrounding area.
Ryan is in on our press releases. Thank you. I'm meant to say Ron Cole. I'm thinking Ryan because I just posted the link to the mural, and we hired, is he a recent graduate or a student, Dragna? Ryan Lance.
He just graduated in spring. We are so lucky that he was able to do this for us. Yeah, he really built amazing website. It's a great job. And
Wonderful.
So that's documenting the progress and everyone who's involved.
Karen, do you know if anybody at the university and the Alumni Magazine or the public PR operation is aware of this?
I know that the Performing Arts Department just put out a press release about the project. I think the Jambar has done a story on it. Is that true? Has the Jambar talked to you?
Not yet. I probably need to reach out. I know they always need stories. Honestly, we've been so engaged with the process itself. I need to start. We just had Business Journal come last night, and we sent press release from Lori Factor, who is our college representative. So she did reach out to media, and I know that there'll be a lot of attention. But yeah, that's true. I need to do more with YSU, just our own media and magazine.
I know we're on everyone's radar. The Jambar has spoken to me about it actually, so I'm sure they'll be reaching out to you soon.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Are there other comments or questions on this proposal? If not, I'd entertain a motion from the committee members. Mr. Grecian?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and approved or moved and seconded to approve case number DRC 20-10. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And again, I'd like to to second Chuck's comments. Your presentation today was very, very thorough. I think we've had two very good and professional presentations, and I sort of set a standard for how we can use Zoom to bring together all the graphics and all the ideas that we need to make decisions. So thank you. Thanks to both of the presenters for a job well done.
Thank you all so much.
If there's no other business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Hey, Hunter.
Mr. Davignon.
Yeah, I think Nick was trying to get your attention at the conclusion of the last case.
Oh, Nick, did you have something to say?
I just didn't know if I should indicate abstention because I'm a part of the project team for the Schuba project.
The record shall so reflect that Mr. Creason is abstaining as a member of the project team.
Mr. Crafton should do the same thing because I work with Kate at BSHM.
Okay.
I was trying to get that in and
You need to just,
I'm
wave
also a member,
wave
but
your
I'm not
arms and do
voting
something that
You're right.
catches you. Or send me a
Hunter.
text, but we'll correct the record to reflect that Mr. Crafton is abstaining from 20-13 and Mr. Creason from 20-10.
Hunter,
Yes, Mr. Oliver.
I don't know if it counts, but I'm also a member, but I'm not a voting body. So
Good. Well, I think you're always a member, but but your comments on both of these are very, very important. So we'll reflect that in this. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn? Or are there any other questions or comments? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Well, we don't need that. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for your time today.